President Akufo Addo is, having one of those meetings. We can hear from the President now.
We subscribe to the view that not all the answers that we have for our development at any one time lie in the bosom of those who have been given the temporary mandate to administer and run our affairs. I think that ideas of how we can function better come from all corners of our society, and if there is some organized manner in which those ideas can be channeled to those of us who have the temporary responsibility of administering our nation, all the better. And this is why I want to make this sort of interaction a feature of my administration. There's some things that need not be said, but I think just for the form, I have to say it. I don't have to agree with anything that you say to me. You don't have to, and you don't have to agree with me either. But except there's one important difference. I have the authority to carry out my beliefs and my program within the context of the mandate that the Ghanaian people gave me on the 7th of December. But as that notwithstanding, I think that interaction with you is something that could be of great benefit to me, to my administration, and thereby, of course, automatically to the people of the country, because it's all about them. It's not really about any of us sitting around this table. It's about the ordinary people of Ghana and what we need to do together to advance their welfare and progress. So I want to welcome you very much. We would like to have this possible, I don't know, I see a long speech here, but to have an informal agenda, agree on one or two, three things that we can all agree is topical, is important, that we can talk about, and spend this hour and a half together in that way. I brought together members of my administration here so that the discussion can be multifaceted, and it also will mean that I am not the only person who should intervene on behalf of government, and we'll make it as much as possible a freewheeling exercise. So let me introduce to you the people who have asked to join me here today. On my right is our historic figure, the first female chief of staff in the history of our country. It remains to be seen whether or not I was wise in making that decision, but that is the case. Next to her is the Attorney General. She was my deputy when I was Attorney General in President Kufuor's administration, and now she's been elevated and is now the Attorney General. Next to her is one of the prominent figures of our public life. All of you know him. He's the Minister for Trade and Industry, Alan Chemating. On my left, the Minister for National Security, Ken Dapa, who's a colleague in President Kufuor's government as well. And next to him is the former General Secretary of our party, who is the one making regions in Ghana today. He's the Minister for Regional Reorganization. And at the end of the table is the dynamic woman who's helping me organize local governments in the country, the Minister for Local Government, Hajia Alima. And behind is our gender lady. She says I shouldn't add any more words. Young man next to the Deputy Chief of Staff, and another one, the Deputy Chief of Staff here. So these are the people on my side of the table who've assembled to meet with you today. So you're welcome once again.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you all the President's ministers and senior officials who've agreed to be here. We are certainly privileged for the opportunity to be here. The second time for most of us, the first time for me, but we are all part of a group, and have been selected to take the place of Nana Osebonsu, who normally leads the group on behalf of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, as well as other civil society bodies. So on this occasion, I'm only an chairman or a spokesperson, but I'm doing that in a partial capacity because some of my other colleagues too will be speaking about some of the issues. And there are 3 issues that brought us here, and 3 issues that were discussed broadly in the meeting with the president. Unlike Mr. President, none of these are my appointees, so I can't possibly introduce them myself. And I sort of have a feeling that if we go around giving our numbers, it might eat too much into the 1.5 hour time that we have. So with your permission, I would suggest that we proceed, and then when the individuals get up or do their speaking, they introduce themselves. This is an undemocratic decision, and I hope you can all pardon me. But three broad issues: anti-corruption, revenue mobilization, and then devolution / decentralization are the themes under which we wanted to present our ideas and suggestions for the way forward in prosecuting an agenda that you, Mr. President, has articulated and which we are all fully in support of. So let me start with the anti-corruption issues, and particularly the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecutor. Of course, we are fully supportive of the idea. We think it's a great idea, and we are happy to see that some moves have been underway to get the office established. We do have couple of suggestions to make, that perhaps we look at it in 2 stages. A short-term stage in which you basically set it up under statute, and then a long-term stage where you set it up with constitutional backing so that it will enjoy the fullest possible independence. But in a short run, we think that doing so through an act of parliament is a good thing to do, and we are supportive of the draft legislation that is being proposed. Nonetheless, we do have a couple of critiques about the draft of the legislation that we have seen. The first critique is that we think that it can use, it needs to, we get a sense that the coverage, what the law seeks to cover, it needs a little bit more articulation of the details of what is it that this office, this special office, is going to deal with when it comes to corruption involving public officials. We believe that procurement is a key area, government procurement is a key area. If it can concentrate on that and concentrate on areas of high financial crimes and others, and then leave many of the other areas of corruption to the normal state agencies, law enforcement agencies, UOCO, and the rest, so that you don't overburden this new office. So that's one. And then I think the second critique is just going in stages as you started doing, and hope that it will end in constitutionalizing the office. But we also think a number of reforms and legislation will be highly complementary to the efficiency and effectiveness of this office to be established. First is the public office holder asset declaration regime. We maintain that the declarations need to be made fully public. We note that in your campaign, you had actually said something like publicly declaring your own assets. So if you can remember to do so, we'll be both delighted. And we believe it will encourage some of the others to do the same, even though the law, as it stands now, does not require it. Again, making the declarations really independently verifiable. It's something that is lacking in the present legislation. And then expanding coverage of the law to include any politically exposed persons. Related to that, it's the speedy passage of the Right to Information Bill. We remain disappointed that there's still delay in getting this law passed. We were so hopeful that it was going to be passed in the 6th Parliament. We understand, we partly understand why it couldn't be passed, but then we also take your promise to heart that that's your campaign promise that we're going to pass it. 6 months, 7 months, we haven't heard of it. It's not on the legislative calendar, so we wish to see it restored on the calendar. Then, in the meantime, I think global experience with the setting up of the Office of Special Prosecutor indicates that typically it takes a much longer time than anticipated to get such a law passed and to get the office actually established and fully operational. Indeed, there's a limit to how far this thing can be, the process can be fast-tracked. So again, here we are, there's considerable public frustration. I feel frustrated with the lack of action on the many allegations of official corruption exposed in the media. And I also have reason to believe that there's strong popular desire to see the president take some consequential actions to address these allegations. So, Mr. President, we recommend the formulation and communication to the public of the government's plan for dealing with at least some cases of alleged or reported corruption in the period between now and when the OSP commences work. And then finally, Mr. President, we plead that you appoint a focal person on anti-corruption and good governance at the presidency or within government, that those of us in civil society, those of us in the anti-corruption movement, those of us in the good governance, decentralization, devolution movement on the civil society side can liaise and coordinate our work with this person or with this office. But I'll end it here and give my other colleagues to speak on the other the remaining two themes.
What's the idea? We take all three before we start talking, or we do?
Actually, we'll leave it to you, sir.
I would think that as they come up, we discuss it and then we move on.
Good.
Otherwise, it's going to be.
But I hope I was brief enough for you.
Oh. You're usually concise self. Yeah. No, because otherwise, even thoughts that people may have as things are being said can get lost. So I would think that let's deal with this matter, and then we'll move on to the others. A few comments, and then I'll ask the Attorney General. There's been, of course, a long and soul-searching discussion about the constitutionality of what was intended. Because I think that the very last thing that we should contemplate is the law coming out only for it to be dragged into a long process.
So watching the pulse with me, Gifty and Dopia. We're just returned from the Flagstaff House where the president has been meeting with civil society organizations. Of course, we just heard Professor Jimabwedi speak on behalf of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition with 3 key points that he makes. Of course, he talks about corruption of public officials, and he believes that they should concentrate, the fight against corruption should be concentrated on procurement when it comes to the office of the special prosecutor, which the government, of course, has spoken about so loudly. He also speaks about reforms and legislation that are needed, especially on the asset declaration bit. He's asking the president to do his own declaration of assets, that it will encourage others to also do so. He speaks about the Right to Information Bill, which of course has been in Parliament for so long, for over 10 years. He says that they are disappointed. He speaks about public frustration of official corruption, and they are recommending the formulation and publication of a plan that talks about how government intends to deal with reported corruption cases between now and the time that the Office of the Special Prosecutor will commence work.